Hey everybody, it's Austin Howell here from Briggs and Howell Film Critiques, ready for episode 2 of the Alphabetical Film Project. So last time I left off with 12 Years a Slave, a very happy, fun, awesome, great time at the movies. But anyway, so gonna get into the next 4 movies that I watched for the project here. We're still kind of chugging our way through the numbers. So the first film I watched this past week is the Takashi Miike film from 2010, 13 Assassins. Now, this is a really, really cool movie, and I remember it got a lot of praise when it came out back in 2010. I was able to catch it at Sunray Cinema, a local kind of art house theater we've got here in Jacksonville. So basically, it's a samurai movie, and it sort of takes place, the period piece kind of takes place around the 1830s when sort of the Shogun era is kind of winding down. The samurais are becoming a little obsolete, you know, they're not needed very much anymore because there's an era of peace during the movie. So, and what happens is these guys are kind of older, but there's this new lord in town who's kind of rising in the power ranks amongst the family clans, but he's starting to stir up trouble. He wants war, basically, is what you kind of find out. He wants an era of war. He loves violence. He loves people fighting against each other. And, of course, the samurais don't want that. I mean, they are willing to defend what they need to defend. That's what they're there for. But, I mean, they want peace, you know. So they basically have to concoct a plan to stop this guy before he brings about a thing of war. So what it is, it's kind of like 300. You know, if you're a fan of 300, but basically with samurai instead of the Spartan warriors, you know, you'll kind of dig this movie. It's directed by Takashi Miike, who, oddly enough, is mainly known for his more horror works, you know, years ago. There's a movie called Audition he's probably most famous for. Man, if you want to see like a sick horror movie that'll maybe make you throw up, go watch Audition. But, you know, he's really transitioned well into kind of a big filmmaker. It's a beautiful movie, very well acted, and I gotta tell you, about the last 30 or 40 minutes of this movie is absolutely bonkers. Like, it's completely worth sort of the slow character build-up throughout the early parts. I mean, the battle scene in the last half hour, there's booby traps and there's crazy sword fighting and lots of blood, like practical blood. You know, it's really violent, but in that very satisfying way, like they're really taking out this dude and his minions, so to speak. But the final, you know, climax of the movie is well worth everything that came before it. But yeah, 13 Assassins, man. If you're a fan of these sort of Japanese, either like war movies, or if you just dig like sword fighting or samurai in general, even if you dig movies, like I said, like 300, this is very, very similar. It's like a small group of guys fighting a big army and trying to figure out ways to kind of defeat them. So if you've never seen it, give 13 Assassins a shot. It's a really, really fun movie. I was really glad I rewatched it. I didn't remember a whole lot of it, and I went back and watched it. It's really good. It's a lot of fun. So next movie, we are going to move on to 50s sci-fi, one of the most fun genres as far as just kind of cheeseball stuff, and, you know, obviously there's an era of like monster movies and, you know, kind of corny special effects. But the next one, got a little sci-fi 4-pack here, is 20 Million Miles to Earth. Now you might be saying 20 million, that's, you can jump from 13 to 20 million, there's got to be numbers in between. Well, I'm going by the way it's laid out here, the title-wise. There's a number 20, and then the word million spelled out. So I'm going to go by the 20 that's in the front, and that kind of comes next in the order. But anyways, so it's 1957, 20 Million Miles to Earth. You know, started out, it kind of seemed like it's going to be another one of those sort of, you know, a monster gets loose after an astronaut expedition, you know, back here on Earth, and they got to fight a generic monster, you know, whatever. That's kind of the setup. But what makes this really cool, and sort of a diamond in the rough, really, as far as these 50 sci-fi movies, is I didn't know until the credits popped up that Ray Harryhausen did the special effects. Now, if that name rings a bell, he died a few years ago, but he's mainly known for like the 1981 Clash of the Titans for those effects, or Jason and the Argonauts, or like those Seventh Voyage of Sinbad type movies. You know, that sort of stop motion where guys are sword fighting like skeletons and things, you know, and crazy monsters. So that's what made this movie kind of stand out from all these other sort of generic 50 sci-fi movies. Is there's a ton of scenes when the creatures sort of getting bigger and starting to interact with the people and the environment. Is there's a lot of things where they're fighting the monster like hands on, and it's really interacting with the people, and that's what made Harryhausen kind of stand out from these other movies where they would just be kind of superimposed in front of a monster, you know, running down the street or something, or it would just be a lot of the shots of the monster doing something, then you cut back to the people. Like in this one, it's very much interactive. So it's kind of a cool aspect of this movie that I didn't really see coming. So, I mean, if you're a fan of like Ray Harryhausen, this is probably one you've never heard of, and because it was so early in his career. But yeah, man, 20 million miles to Earth. It's a reptile creature that gets loose in Rome, of all places, not even the United States. And when I found out the reason it said in Rome is because it said Harryhausen wanted a vacation in Italy, so they set the movie there. But it makes for cool stuff where the monster's kind of climbing the Colosseum and he's sort of fighting around the Rome area, so it's kind of cool, and it gives it a little flavor. I mean, you have to take into account that, you know, the acting is very 50s acting, I guess is what you want to call it, you know, where the main guy's just like, General, let me tell you something, if we don't stop this, it's going to be a menace to the whole world. You know, it's that very, you know, kind of cliche, corny acting, but if you can kind of get over, you know, the standards of that and put yourself back in the 50s, you know, I think you're really going to kick out of the effects of the time, you know, and those scenes are easily the best bits of the movie, and they're a lot of fun. So give this one a look if you kind of dig that sort of genre stuff, or Harryhausen in general. So the next film I don't have a DVD case for to hold up for. It's 21 Jump Street. I own a digital copy of it off of Amazon, so I don't have anything to kind of hold in my hands right now. But yeah, 21 Jump Street, the Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum comedy from a few years ago. And man, I remember me and Briggs went to the midnight show of 21 Jump Street really not knowing what to expect. We, you know, the trailers looked kind of funny, but we were like, oh man, they're like redoing an old 80s show. Like, I mean, it kind of looks funny. But what we didn't know is that it would really kind of set a new standard for these sort of reboots as far as making fun of and embracing the concept of a reboot and kind of turning it on its head, to where, you know, there's a lot of things in the movie where they're sort of making fun of the fact that it's a reboot of an old show, and they're making fun of the cliches of doing that sort of thing. You know, the Nick Offerman character is very much like, you know, the people behind this 21 Jump Street program are not very creative, and they're kind of out of ideas. You know, it's good stuff where he's sort of commenting on that. But what makes it great is the directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who first did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which is a very underrated animated film. For those who haven't seen it, it's very clever. There's a lot of really good jokes. The guys have a lot good creative mind. You know, they did the Lego Movie recently, which a lot of people love, and of course they did 22 Jump Street, which I'm a fan of as well. I just don't own, but you know, they've really sort of solidified themselves as these new kind of you know, top of the comedy genre. And 21 Jump Street really stands out because of the cleverness of it and the chemistry between all the actors. You know, Channing Tatum was, you know, I think I was in the same boat with a lot of people where he was coming off like just doing all these like Nicholas Sparks movies, and, you know, he had done like G.I. Joe, but, you know, G.I. Joe was like, meh. So, I mean, we were kind of iffy on Channing Tatum, and then he does this movie, and he's really funny, and he's really likable, you know, and he shows that he can sort of make fun of himself, his own persona, and he really popped off the screen, and I became like an instant fan of him. I was like, dude, I'm on board with Channing Tatum, and the sequel solidified that, and he's really become a great actor, you know, and a really fun guy to watch. His chemistry with Jonah Hill is fantastic. They really bounce off each other really, really well. But it's just got some really, really funny stuff. You know, I didn't laugh out loud as much when I rewatched it, you know, this past week as I did, you know, initially. But I've also seen it like 7 or 8 times, so it's, you know, but it's still really, really amusing. And man, if you didn't check it out, which I know a lot of people have, make sure you check out 21 Jump Street. It was probably my favorite comedy that came out that year, even sort of eclipsing Ted that year, which I had kind of bounced back and forth from which was better, Ted or 21 Jump Street. And I really kind of go with Jump Street, man. It's really creative, really fun. So, final movie. And after I hold it up, I'm going to give you a second to kind of let the laughter and the insults die down, because the movie's 27 Dresses. Now, Katherine Heigl's 27 Dresses. Now, before you judge me too much, when I was putting together this project, I was pumping, you know, I was using my iPad and I was typing in all the titles, you know, into my Excel spreadsheet, and I was going through the shelving, you know, and I bought my girlfriend Sarah, who's behind the camera right now, these date night sort of collections. There's like 2 or 3 of them over there. And I was like, babe, do I include these in the thing? I'm not sure because they're on my shelf. And I kind of said if it was on my shelf, I need to put it in here. So I was just like, screw it. I'll put it in there and I'll watch it, whatever. It's something I haven't seen. It'll give me something to watch. And, I'm always going into these sort of romantic comedies going like, hey, maybe this will be the one sort of like Love Actually or Just Like Heaven or, one of these ones that like, I'll end up kind of liking it or kind of digging it, And this isn't one of those movies. 27 Dresses is not. It's directed by Anne Fletcher, who went on to do The Proposal, which I know a lot of people like, but she also did the recent Hot Pursuit. And she did like Step Up, just movies that are obviously not geared towards me. And I know this movie is not geared towards a 29-year-old guy. It's geared for the young female audience. But the basic setup is that Katherine Heigl, I think this came out like a year after Knocked Up, and I like her in Knocked Up. And but this is sort of like the movie she started kind of becoming associated with, is these sort of just kind of silly, just romantic movies with crazy premises. Like in this one, she's like almost a professional bridesmaid, but she's not getting paid for it, which is kind of strange. I would charge for my services if I was doing that. But so she's gone to like 27 weddings, but she's never had her own, of course. Honk honk. Anyways, so she's got a boss that she wants to fall in love with, but her sister, played by Malin Ackerman, who I really like, actually. She was in Watchmen and Harold and Kumar and a bunch of things. But she's kind of the evil chick here. She's like the sort of conniving little sister, but starts dating the boss. And, of course, she really likes the boss. But there's a guy that really likes her, but she just can't see it because she's in love with the boss that she can't see that James Marsden, old Cyclops, really wants to get with her. And even though he's a super nice guy and a super fun guy and he digs her, she just can't see it. She's got the blinders on. Like, I'm sorry, it's just cliche nonsense. I just... and it's too long, man. This movie's like 2 hours, and just the movie's almost as long as Star Wars, and it's just too much, man. So, I'm always, I don't like a lot of these movies. Granted, I mean, I'll acknowledge them if they're good, like Love Actually, but man, this is not one of those movies, and I'm not looking forward to the other 2 I have to watch in this pack, which are coming up pretty soon, actually. It's going to be all about Steve, the one Sandra Bullock won a Razzie for the same year she won an Oscar for The Blind Side, and Bride Wars. Whew, another, wedding-themed movie. Ugh. But, so yeah, I watched 27 Dresses, and surprisingly, I didn't like it. But, oh well. So... that's it for this week. Next week, I've got a really good batch of movies, so make sure you're following the Facebook. And I'm actually going to probably get on Twitter here pretty soon and start tweeting out, as I'm watching the movies. Going to start, typing about them, and then it'll culminate into the episode. So I think I'm going to start doing that pretty soon. But, follow me on the Facebook page. If you haven't liked Briggs and Howell Film Critiques, my sister page, where we do current movie reviews and stuff in theaters, check that out as well. Make sure you like that page and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So thanks a lot, you guys. This has been episode 2, and until episode 3, I'll see you next time. Bye.